Good morning and welcome to this special production coming to you live from the Karas Regional Council as we give you the latest election coverage coming from here. I'm Janet Aces. Now we have about 108,000 registered voters for the Karas and Hardap region combined as Namibians come out in numbers to cast their vote for the regional and local authority elections. Now, joining me in the studio will be the ECN Regional Council Coordinator for the Karas region, that's Agustinus Ucham, as well as Daniel Nadunya, the Senior Reporter for NBC. But before we get into the discussion, the Deputy Minister of Veteran Affairs, that's Hilma Nikano, she casted her vote earlier today in Keetmanshoop, and this is what she had to say.
How do you find the process?
Because each one of us, when we are voting, in the first place, you play your part. You participate in your own right as a Namibian. So yes, my vote will make a difference in that it will add to any other that is participating.
I'm voting for change and development.
Yeah, we just want the change, so our leader must make a difference. So it's my choice, so that I can make a difference when I choose my candidate what I want. So
I want my voice to make a contribution to how the government must be run. Yeah, it's through the votes that we achieve the vote we want.
The reason why I would vote is because we need really a lot of change in the health facility, especially in the life expectancy that needs to be very high, because most of the old people are really going in, and it has to, there must be a lot of changes also in the education and health facilities, and especially the hospitals, and even in the old, and even in the villages. There need to be a lot of changes also in this.
It is voting day indeed, coming to you live from the Karas Regional Council, and joining me in the studio this morning is the Karas Regional Coordinator, Agustinus Ucham, to talk to us more about the polling stations and what we can expect during the course of today. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you, sir. Now talk to us. What's been the experience thus far? Obviously voting started at 7 o'clock this morning. What's been the experience? Have you experienced any challenges thus far?
Yes, we did not experience serious challenges, but what we have observed is a long queues in the urban areas who have been coming as far as from 6 o'clock already, before 6 at some polling station where I visited. People are already in the queue. The only thing what I have observed is when the voters are coming at the polling venues, we have observed that when we are scanning the voter's card, it could not scan the voter's registration card, but particularly those who have been registered in 2014. But then that must not be a big problem for the voters. If we could not detect on the VVD, we could still let the voters to vote, let them sign in the elect 27, which will allow the voter to vote. So not your particulars to be detected by VVD, it's not a problem at all. We'll still let the voters to vote. Checking also on the manual voters roll, and also allow the voter to fill in elect 27 and the voter will be voting. So actually, besides that one, we did not experience major problems. We could hold the voting process.
All right. Well, we also joined on the line via Skype by NBC's senior reporter, pardon me, that's Daniel Nadunya. Daniel, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Janet.
So where are you? Are we finding ourselves there, where you are? Which polling station are you at right now?
I now find myself at the youth hostel or youth center, which is also known as the German hostel here in Lüderitz. So what I'm observing here is long queues, of course, but I can tell you that covering the Naminus constituency with over 8,000 registered voters, I can tell you that the turnout is quite good, I should say. Some people started queuing up as early as 3 a.m. at some polling stations like the Benguela Community Hall. People started queuing up as early as 3 o'clock, and it went quite well, except for minor hiccups. And I think here at the German hostel, the voting process was delayed for over an hour and a half, and the presiding officer alludes to the fact that the voting booths and some other equipment were delivered quite late, and that's the reason for the delay. Janet.
All right. Well, thank you, Daniel. We'll come back to you in a moment. Thank you so much for the update. Now, the Lüderitz Mayor, Brigitte Fredericks, has been queuing up at the polling station since 3 a.m. And she casted her vote. And this is what she had to say. Let's take a look.
I would like to call upon everyone in Lüderitz, in Namibia, if you did not make up your mind yet to go and vote, stand up now and go and vote.
Right, well, definitely voting day indeed, and we continue with our discussion here at the Karas Regional Council, and we have the regional coordinator for the ECN. A very good morning to you. Talk to us. We had a discussion, obviously the changes now with the voting processes that we will be using the paper ballots. What can voters really expect when they cast their votes?
Yes, we used to cast our votes with EVMs, electronic voting machines, but now particularly these regional council and local authority elections, we are not going to use EVMs, and we will use ballot papers. Now, what the voters has to expect at the polling venues is number one, because of COVID regulations, we have to register, keep the register at the first very point, take the body temperature, and then sanitize each and every voter which is entering the polling venue, number one. And then screen the voter's registration card, whether it's valid. As I said, for the regional and local authority election, you have to cast your vote only in the constituency where you registered and in the local authority where you registered. And from there, we will screen the voter as fingers whether the voter did not vote previously at any other stations. There from then, the voter will be issued with the ballot paper on the first table for the regional council election. And then the voter will be explained the process of the voting and then be allowed to enter the voting booth to cast his or her vote. Thereafter, the voter will go to the second ballot paper issuer, which will issue the voter with the local authority elections. And then the voter will go back again to the different voting booth and cast his or her vote and deposit it in the ballot box, which is for the local authority. So the voters will definitely be issued with two different ballot papers. First one, regional council, which the voter has to deposit the ballot paper in the regional council. The letter of that ballot box will be blue, and then one for the local authority will be yellow.
All right. Now, Daniel, over to you there, where we're finding you. Daniel, you still on the line? Daniel? Daniel, good morning. All right, we'll continue with Daniel in a moment. Now, just talk to us really, after the polling stations closes, what can we really expect?
Yes, after the closing of the polls, which will be 2100 hours, but observing the queues, we may not close exactly at 2100 hours. It will depend how the queues looks like by 2100 hours. Then, when we will close the polls, then definitely the counting of the votes will commence immediately at the polling venues. And then the preliminary result will be announced at the polling venues in whole Taras region, in all 7 constituencies, also at mobile polling stations. And then after announcing the results will be placed at the polling venue, outside the polling venue, and that particular teams will be making their way to the verification centers in all 7 constituencies, where they will meet the returning officers of that particular constituency.
All right. Well, we definitely asked a number of young people about the importance of voting. Let's take a look.
I wish whoever that comes into leadership to look into the seriousness of high level of employment. I always believe to say infrastructure creates a high level of room for employment, because when there is infrastructure development, there is high level of employment, both on blue collar, white collar, job opportunities for young people. My aim is to see young people carrying at least bread home after 5 o'clock, and young people getting up 8 o'clock early in the morning, going to work. And whoever comes into leadership, I wish that person would really look into that matter. Apart from that, I wish elders to be looked into. Keetmanshoop particularly has too many street kids. I wish a leader that comes in would have that heart for social development, would look into the needs of what is on the ground for both orphans, vulnerable children, teenagers, and the elderly. Because those are our pride. Those are what we need to look into as leaders.
What I think is that they should vote for the right people who will try to fight for us so that we can get at least a soccer ground which is having grass, leaders who can also be thinking of sports that should be uplifted, interest in the whole Karas region as well as in Namibia.
Today's generation or today's youth, they have a mindset of, I'm just gonna love whatever tomorrow brings, I don't care. And that's not right. They should try to have the power for a better tomorrow.
What I want from our youth from Namibia is we must stand together as one. We must help each other to build up our land, fight this coronavirus, so that there must be more schools, hospitals, and kids, and stand and vote for each other.
No, here in Keetmanshoop, we experience a lot of problems, social problems. And within the 30 years that we are independent, we have still problems that is rising in Keetmanshoop. Not only Keetmanshoop, the Karas region as a whole. And not only Karas region, the whole of Namibia. But the important thing is we must develop our human index. The human index, developing people, developing the normal lifestyle of normal human beings. That's what we are striving for. We don't want to affiliate ourselves with political activities. We want our people to prosper. We want our people to develop themselves. We want to develop themselves, meaning sustainable development. That's what we are striving for in Namibia.
Well, it's a voting day indeed, and we're coming to you live from the Karas Regional Council, giving the latest election coverage here. I'm joined on the line via Skype by NBC senior producer Daniel Nadunya, giving us an update on the situation there. Very good morning to you, Daniel. Daniel, good morning to you. Daniel, good morning to you. All right, we'll continue having a conversation with Daniel in a moment. I do have the ECN regional coordinator, that's Augustus Ucham, in the studio with me. Sir, talk to us really about the counting stages. Obviously, once the polling stations close, when do we expect counting to take place?
Yes, the counting will immediately commence after the closing of the polls at each and every polling stations. And then after the counting, then definitely the result will be announced, result of that particular polling station. And then after the announcing, then they will paste the results outside that polling venue. And then all the teams of that particular constituency will move to the verification center of that constituency, where they will meet the returning officer. And then all the different polling stations, preliminary results, what they have announced at the polling venues, will now be combined at the verification center, and then the constituency results will be announced at the constituency, at the verification center. That will be the final result for the constituency. For the constituency number 1 and number 2, for the local authorities within that constituency. And that will be determining, when it's come to local authorities, which political party has received how many votes and how many seats in that particular local authority. That will be announced at the verification center for the local authority. For the regional council, at the constituency level, once all the teams' results has been obtained, then the councillor or a candidate with the most votes will be the one who will be winning to become a councillor for that constituency. That will be the process after the counting.
Now talk to us, what's really your advice to voters as they go to the polling stations today?
Yes, my advice to the voters is to come earlier at the polling venues, to cast his or her vote, to allow the teams to conclude the polling on time, so that we could also have time to announce the final result. The announcing of final result will depend when the polling will be closed at the polling stations. How earlier, how better. Once we close at the given time, which is 2100 hours, it will give the polling officers also time to conclude the counting and then to announce the results, which will also enable the returning officers to announce the results for the constituency and for the local authority on time, so that we will know who is the candidate who wins for the local, for the regional council election, and also we will be able to know how many seats a particular political party obtain in that particular local authority.
All right. Well, we're definitely seeing for the first time in a couple of years now, a lot of young people participating in the electoral process. And here's a little insert that talks about youth participation in the elections.
I'm encouraging the Namibian nation, the young people especially, because we are the most of the population in our country, to go vote. Your vote makes a difference. There will be the difference that you want to see. If you vote, it means that you can participate within the political system, because it is important for development.
I'm urging all the people in Keetmanshoop, in Karas, in Namibia, to go vote. Your vote counts. Take this with you and go make a cross. Thank you.
I motivate the youth to stand up and go vote. Be the change you want to see in Namibia.
Well, some bright young minds there sharing with us, encouraging us to vote, and definitely make your way to the various polling stations to take your vote. We are coming to the end of this live production, and we're coming to you from the Karas Regional Council. I'd like to thank our guest, Mr. Augustus Ucham, for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll definitely touch base with you a little bit later on during the course of the day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for having me also to share the very important information to the public and to the voters.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Well, from all of us here in the studio, it's bye-bye Namibia. We'll see you later on. Bye-bye.